Welcome to Transit Unplugged. I'm your host, Paul Comfort, and this is the midweek edition of Comfort's Corner, where we bring you the inside story and what's happening in and around the transit industry as we respond to the COVID-19 crisis. Thanks for being with us today. Once again today, we bring you the headline news of what's happening across the industry and some of the responses and communication efforts that are being made to put out what are best practices as we work on recovery from the COVID-19 crisis. We also have a newsmaker interview with Gary Thomas, the CEO of the largest light rail system in North America, in Dallas, Texas, DART. We're excited to have him. We talked to him from his home office in Dallas. We also have a Mike's Minute program today, again, where Mike talks about bringing kindness to what we're doing, a great inside look at how we should respond to some of the folks who are our new heroes in this industry. And then we take a look at our book, The Future of Public Transportation. And again, the book was the #1 bestseller in March on Amazon and still is selling well every day. Folks across the world are getting copies of it, and because it really is kind of future-proof and talking about what's coming next. I encourage you to get your copy on Amazon or Barnes & Noble as well, as it includes the input of 40 top futurists and leaders, some of whom have been featured right here on Transit Unplugged. And now look at what's happening and what has been happening around the industry. One of the big pieces of news to come out of this last week was the unfortunate passing of one of the leaders of New Jersey Transit's rail system. And we've seen a number of folks, pieces of news coming out in the industry about people, drivers and frontline troops, but also senior executives of transit systems being infected with the COVID-19 virus or actually passing away with complications from it. And our thoughts and prayers go out to those at New Jersey Transit for the loss of one of their great leaders. Along the lines of recovery, the American Public Transit Association has started a new committee, which will focus on recovery from the industry, and it's being chaired by the CEO of Los Angeles Metro, Phil Washington. Phil is a great leader of our industry, as you know, and he also will be my guest on the regular Transit Unplugged episode podcast at the end of this month on April 30th. We had a full half-hour interview with him the other night, and I encourage you to take a listen to that. And there's co-chairs of that group as well from CODA and from Washington, D.C. And we wish them well as they work on best practices for the industry. We've also been talking to folks about best practices. Just yesterday, I was able to do a nationwide webinar, an executive roundtable preparing for beyond COVID-19. And on that show, I talked to Lauren Skyver, the CEO of Sunline Transit in Southern California, Peter Stark, the general manager of Wacom Transportation Authority in the northwest corner of the United States in Washington State, Elia Carey, who is a messaging leader out of Silicon Valley who helps tech firms take their message wide. And I asked her to join us and have been talking to her about some unique perspectives from someone that doesn't work directly in the transit industry, but has, I think, got some great tools for us to use as we promote a clean, safe transit with new heroes as we recover from this lower ridership that we're having right now. And then Sam Sargent, the bright young deputy chief of staff for Cap Metro in Austin, Texas, joined us. If you missed that 90-minute look, you can tune into it on Monday on this Comfort's Corner podcast. It'll be our episode then. I've also got one more executive roundtable I'm hosting for Trapeze, and you can register for this at trapezegroup.com. Coming up next Tuesday, April 28th from 2 to 4 p.m., a longer 2-hour version that'll feature James McDonald, who's director of Saskatoon Transit, also Steve Sawyer, who is the general manager of Trapeze Group, Roger Helmy, Alex Nee, Jeff Moore, Teresa Domingo, and Travis Nepper, all senior executives of Trapeze. And this is going to be time to take a step back and think about the lessons learned from the COVID-19 pandemic. Great time to evaluate your response and your use of technology. A lot of folks have been talking about how they've been able to use their existing technology stack to help make transit more accessible to people, how they've learned to maybe upload all the fixed route bus stops like one agency did in Canada into their paratransit software because they weren't able to board people in wheelchairs that needed that mobility device of a wheelchair on the regular fixed route bus anymore because only the front door had a wheelchair lift. So they were boarding from the back, and so they couldn't get on the fixed route bus. And so instead, those fixed route bus stops now became paratransit stops in their software system. And so those are the kind of technology agile tools that folks have used. They've also maybe added in new locations for Meals on Wheels, as paratransit systems have had a 50% reduction in ridership in a lot of places. And so the drivers are now, becoming using their vehicles to do things like deliver Meals on Wheels. Or in one place that the CEO of the San Antonio transit system told us, Jeff Arndt, that he's using his paratransit vehicles and the Wi-Fi that's on them and taking them out and stationing them at apartment complexes that don't have good Wi-Fi, so the children there can, from their own apartments, with the signal emanating from the vehicle, be able to log into the Wi-Fi and do their schoolwork. Lots of interesting and innovative approaches of using technology. We'll be talking about all those kind of things and how to make sure that you're using your technology to the fullest ability. I was on a webinar for the TripSpark group earlier this week for a lot of their customers across North America. And I used the analogy of how, our brain, they say our brain only uses about 20% of its capacity. And unfortunately, that's the case in many transit agencies. Is they have very powerful software tools in place, but the training, hasn't stayed up to speed. And so folks maybe only use a portion of the functionality and features on the software. And so they're digging deeper now and finding out how that software can help them come out. I was also honored to speak at a chief financial officer roundtable this last week and talk to all the CFOs across North America for transit systems about how they're spending this $25 billion that came out of the Federal Transit Administration from the U.S. Stimulus package. $23 billion of that has been utilizing for urban transit systems, $2 billion for rural systems through FTA's regular formula funding programs. And we talked about the usage of it. FTA has put out a frequently asked questions FAQ section on their website with great insight. And I want to thank Marco D'Angelo, the Executive Director and CEO of CUDA, the Canadian Urban Transit Association, for having me on as a solo guest for a nationwide webinar this week for CUDA, the Canadian Urban Transit Association, where I talked about what's happening across Canada in transit. And I'm excited about doing the same thing in Australia, where the UITP group there and I are talking about me possibly doing a nationwide webinar in Australia coming up in next month in May. We've also got an article coming up in the May edition of the Metro magazine about 5 long-term implications on the public transit industry. So a lot of opportunities to speak and talk about what's happening and what can happen to help us get out of this coronavirus lower ridership. Folks are talking about a road to recovery, and I want to pass on 3 ideas that I've heard lately that I think make sense. One of them is to maintain our high cleaning protocols of buses, trains, and stations, and to let people know and market that to the public and let them know that, once the governors and the states and the provinces start allowing people to get back to work at regular jobs like they are starting to now in some states like South Carolina and other states, and businesses are starting to open back up now, we want to encourage people to get back on the bus and the train, but we want to make sure it's clean and we want to make sure it's comfortable for folks. So we need to make sure that we maintain these high cleaning protocols of using medical grade cleansers and wiping down the high touch surfaces on a regular basis. One person has even suggested that maybe we put the time that the vehicle was cleaned up on electronic signs on the vehicle or stations to let people know that we're doing this on a more regular basis. Another opportunity that folks are talking about taking advantage of is making transit experience as touchless as possible. So I've written about the fact that one of the long-term implications of the coronavirus might be the death of the fare box. And don't know how many folks are going that way, but I've heard from many that they want to move away from cash now. And so using contactless fare cards, e-faring, touch-and-go credit cards are a way to make the transit experience as touchless as possible. Some folks are talking about even maintaining free service or not requiring fares for a while longer as a way to thank folks for allowing transit to be for essential workers, and now thanking them for coming back on as we open services back up and expand services. And then finally, improve marketing messages. Our new heroes, our new celebrities are our bus drivers and the frontline troops who have been out there cleaning. Why not use them if they're interested in helping us message to folks as that transit is safe, transit is clean, transit is good for the environment, and transit is an essential service. And so getting that message out to folks as we begin the recovery process over the next few weeks, as we're not completely over the hump, I don't think, clearly by any stretch of the imagination, but there are talks now about beginning to open up some parts of the economy again. And as that happens and folks are able to ride public transit again, these are some messaging ideas that I've heard that I think make sense as we head into this new post-COVID world. There'll be a lot more we'll be talking about. Make sure you stay tuned to my LinkedIn page. Just find me on Paul Comfort, where I'm putting up interesting ideas. Like today, I posted an article about a seating manufacturer for airlines and how they're talking about maybe turning around the middle seat and putting up plexiglass beside them as an opportunity for seating configurations that may have some implications for buses and trains here in the public transit industry. Thanks for being with us as we looked at headline news today and what I've been doing. Now we're going to take a minute to listen to Mike's Minute and then head into Gary Thomas, the CEO of DART. And then finally, we'll take a listen to the future of public transportation, the Amazon bestseller. Thanks so much for being with us today. I'm Paul Comfort. Stay safe out there.
I'm Mike Bismeyer, Regional Sales Director at Proterra, and this is Mike's Minute, where we talk about the importance of kindness, mentorship, and leadership with the hope that it will inspire you and others to pay it forward. It's been another week of transit in the world, continuing to adapt to the ongoing COVID crisis. However, if I may, we need to look at the positives now more than ever and realize the silver lining that may exist. As we start to see the stories on how transit will have to reinvent itself, I also believe we have been given an opportunity to have our own personal views changed by the realization of the extraordinary people we work alongside currently. With stress and anxiety running at an all-time high and many unknowns, transit organizations, agencies, contractors, and suppliers have all had employees that have risen to the top. Employees that have shown impeccable leadership, empathy, made tough decisions, and personal sacrifices for the good of transit. I've had several amazing mentors and leaders over the years that I've been fortunate enough to gain tidbits and direction from, and many of those folks did not know they were mentoring anyone at the time. Their actions simply were worth noting and one day emulating. Each of us is blessed with these individuals in our workplaces that always step up and inspire us to do the right thing. Take time this week to note the stars in your organization. Thank them. And perhaps the best compliment of all, be inspired by their actions to pay it forward wherever possible. Remember, kindness is cool and kindness is contagious too.
Hey, thanks for being with us today on Transit Unplugged, the Comfort's Corner edition. I'm excited to have with me Gary Thomas, who's President and Executive Director at Dallas Area Rapid Transit, one of the nation's biggest transit systems and the largest light rail system in America. Gary, thanks so much for being with us today on the episode.
Paul, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, so you're coming to me from your home office in Dallas?
Yeah, something like that. You can see my my version of mass transit in the picture behind me, of course.
Yeah, horses. I like that. Yeah. So how you been? What's happening in Dallas, man?
You know, it's these are crazy times, as we certainly can all appreciate. But one thing I'll say, Paul, is I'm incredibly proud of the DART team. They continue to push forward. They continue to stay focused on the business at hand. Obviously focused on our customers, making sure that we get folks safely from where they are to where they need to be. And of course, we as an organization are very focused on the safety of our employees, making sure that we do everything possible to keep them safe, to keep them out of harm's way, and at the same time, provide an essential service to those customers who we all know now are those essential workers, whether they're at the grocery store or the pharmacy or wherever they're. A lot of healthcare workers are riding our system every day. So every day we're running, it's about like a lot of agencies around the country, we're somewhere in the neighborhood of 68 to 70% below normal. And in our world, that's somewhere in the neighborhood of about 70,000 trips, so total. So I can't say enough about the DART team and what we're doing.
And are you seeing any differentiation in the usage of bus versus your light rail system? Is more riding bus than light rail, or?
Yeah, it varies. It varies by day, certainly, but I've seen the bus down, if bus is down 71%, and rail is down 68, 70% or so. And So it's
So have you?
pretty close, actually. Now, where we really
Yeah,
see the decline is in the commuter rail.
right. Oh yeah. What do you got there? What's going on there?
Commuter rail is about 85% down, in our case, on TRE between Fort Worth and Dallas. So
Oh yeah.
it's a little bit more. And as I talk to other agencies around the country, it seems to be more the norm that the commuter systems or commuter rails are down a little bit more than the urban bus and rail systems.
And how are you handling that with your service levels? Have you dropped the amount of routes that you're offering?
We went to a modified Saturday service, and and then we were probably a little bit later than some agencies in doing that. And we were a little bit later to do that for a couple of reasons. One is that we wanted to make sure that I had that we portrayed some level of normalcy as things were rapidly starting to change. And the other was that we provided some social distancing as ridership was falling. So we were trying to make sure that we allowed our customers to space out on the trains and buses. And so that delay, quite frankly, allowed the ridership to fall. And then we instituted the modified, and when I say modified Saturday service, some of our routes actually go away on Saturday, and we know that
Okay.
we need that lifeline. But we also appreciated that we needed to match service. So as we went to the Saturday service, we added where we needed to add. We added additional buses to make sure that we had the appropriate social distancing, and then we still had a lot of capacity left over. So now we're delivering meals to seniors. We're using that capacity to help the school districts in our region get food to those families and those kids from the different school districts. So there's a lot of neat things that have come out of this, and I know that's happening across the country certainly, but a lot of good ideas on how we can be still a vital part of our community in addition to providing transportation services.
And what have you done with fares?
Like a lot of agencies around the country, we have not declared free fares, but we have gone to rear door boarding, and we're not asking our operators to verify fares. In other words, when we went to rear door boarding, we actually put up a physical barrier in the bus so you can't go forward past a certain point. And in our buses, we also have doors that the operators can close to close off their space.
Yeah.
So we have their spaces closed, plus we have that physical barrier to keep people 6 feet behind them. So, we're not saying free fares, but we're not getting too concerned about it. But the reality is that also allows us, if we have an issue on a train or a bus, it gives us our police the opportunity to get on and take care of a situation when someone is not respecting the other customers on the train or bus, or not respecting the opportunity to be on our vehicles.
So that's great. The Congress recently, as you know, adopted the big stimulus package that gave $25 billion to transit. How is that impacting DART? Is that going to help you for a while?
Oh, absolutely. As is the case across the country, it's going to be helpful. Is it going to be enough? Probably not, but that's yet to be seen. We don't know where this storm ends, quite frankly, and how long it goes. But is it helpful? I mean, the $25 billion for transit is the biggest push to transit in the history of transit, I suspect. And
Yes, it is.
so we're incredibly appreciative to Congress, incredibly appreciative to our delegation for that opportunity. As you may remember, we actually do a 20-year financial plan. So we actually, we look at what we anticipate losing now, next year, the next year, or the next 30 months or so. But when you multiply that over the 20 years, now you've set a lower base. And when you look at that 20-year graph, we actually have to take $1.3 billion out of our 20-year program. And so now over the next couple of years, it's in the, I don't know, $450 million range. But again, when you drop that base down and project it out, it's a substantial difference. So we're already in that process where we're looking at how do we adjust our base? How do we adjust our operating revenues? What do we do now moving forward? And I know a lot of agencies around the country are already in that phase, but we know this too shall pass. And once it does, we have to be prepared to come out of it and conduct business in a good fiscal manner.
I was a guest on a webinar this week with the chief financial officers of many transit systems around the country, and your former CFO David Leininger was on that call, and that's what they were talking about is, how are we going to use these? What is the FTA's mechanisms for obligation of the funds? Do you have any idea how you're going to spend the money? Is it just going to be to kind of make up for the lost revenues and pay for the extra cleaning costs, or do you have any new projects you're going to do to kind of try to future-proof your agency or anything? Or
we've got a couple of large capital projects going on now, and those continue to move forward. Most of our money, I suspect, will really go toward the loss of revenue and the additional loss of sales tax, loss of fare box, and the additional costs associated with dealing with the pandemic. That said, we would obviously be very excited about a fourth bill that allowed for some stimulus money that went toward capital projects, shovel-ready projects. For some of us that remember 2010, 11, 12 timeframe, we remember that there was a moment in time there where shovel-ready projects got a little bit of a bump, a little bit of a boost. So, we might be ready for a couple of shovel-ready projects here in a month or two.
That would be great. I mean, they've been talking about, a stimulus package for 3.5 years. And I think now that they're used to spending big dollars, maybe they'll come up with it finally. And it's something that I think could not only revolutionize a lot of the capital projects that our transit systems are working on, but could also be a real boost to the economy, getting jobs, getting people back working jobs, et cetera, after this gut punch. Hey, how is paratransit going in the Dallas area?
Paratransit, on a normal weekday, we'll typically have 3,000 paratransit customers, and now we have 1,000. So we've dropped by 2/3, and that 1,000, and that's pretty consistent every day.
Okay.
And that those people are the ones that are going to dialysis, the ones that have medical conditions that they have to be at every single day. So, it's, of course, as we talk all the time, Paul, it's one of the most vulnerable segments of our community, and it's incredibly gratifying to be able to continue to provide that kind of service to the people that need it most.
And final question is, what do you see going forward now for DART? I mean, how do you see things, developing and coming out? Do you have any time frame or projection or ideas on what you're going to do to help recover ridership?
If I had the time frames or projections, I'd probably be on the NBC nightly news.
Be on a bigger show than this one. That's right.
But I think the question is one that we all are thinking about, and if we're not, we really should be. Going into this, we all recognize that our world was changing. The transportation world was changing, and it was changing at an incredibly fast pace. Now it's pivoting a little bit, and I think two things are happening. One is it's pivoting a little bit, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but also the pace that we will see that change will accelerate. In other words, we're going to a warp speed kind of approach to how quickly the transportation world changes for a variety of reasons. A lot of us would see a drop in ridership on Fridays because people would start to work from homes on Friday. Well, now people know how to work from home more efficiently than ever. So we might see people working from home multiple days a week, which could impact our ridership. People are going to be a little hesitant to get back on trains and buses or go anywhere, quite frankly, where they're close to other people, within that 6 foot zone that we've become so familiar to. So we know that's going to change. Yes, we are just like everybody else. We are working on that marketing campaign to talk about why people should come back to transit, but it's still going to be slow. It's still going to be an effort to continue to move this forward until there's a vaccination or some type of medical solution to either so people don't have COVID-19 or that the impacts of COVID-19 are significantly reduced. Now, that said, remember, we've been very focused on mobility as a service.
Right.
An organization. And I think the speed at which we will focus on mobility as a service or MOS will certainly accelerate as we come out of this over the next 30 months. So I see that that whole process changing from an organizational perspective. Coincidentally, truly coincidentally, yesterday we actually had what we called an ambitions lab. So our consultant, who in this case is Deloitte, actually worked with us. We had an all-day session to really talk about the organizational culture and what it needs to be as we move forward. Now, as I said, it was coincidental. We had scheduled this some time ago, but the timing, it couldn't be more fortuitous. The timing couldn't be more perfect to have that kind of conversation now as we look at what's ahead of us over the next 30 days, over the next 12 months, over the next 5 years. So it's, I'm confident that our organization, like many of the organizations around the country, are going to come out of this full steam ahead. And we know that transportation and transit is going to be vital to the success of our communities. We just have to figure out how it's going to be a little different moving forward.
Very good. Thank you so much, Gary, for being our guest today on Transit Unplugged. And we wish you the best as you continue to provide safe, efficient, reliable transit with world-class customer service all over the Dallas area.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
Thanks for being with us today on Transit Unplugged. I'm Paul Comfort, and on each episode, we're taking the opportunity to take a verbal reading of the book, The Future of Public Transportation, which included input from 40 transit leaders, futurists, and experts in the industry. The book is basically future-proof, in my opinion, as a lot of the information in it is a retrospective look, a look at what's happening now, and really most of what's in it still has strong implications for the future. As is the chapter I'll be reading from today, which is by Brett Koenig, who is Industry Solutions Manager for Enterprise Asset Management at my company, Trapeze Group. And he writes about the smart infrastructure revolution. Now more than ever, in my opinion, this will be more pertinent as folks are learning to use their software in even better ways and the new intelligent way to look at transportation. Let me take a read from his chapter 7, The Future of Smart Infrastructure Asset Management. And Brett says that rolling supercomputers and state of good repair today is a convergence of the technological trends that's driving the Internet of Things, and the technological trends are a real revolution in transit. And 4 steps that you can use to use the Internet of Things in transit are what I'm going to read from today. Number 1, Brett says, your equipment is talking. Are you listening? You should include telematic requirements in your new equipment specifications so that any new safety critical infrastructure, such as vehicles, facility, wayside that you bring online, has these capabilities from day one. For legacy equipment, engage with your equipment vendors to tap into the telematic condition monitoring data that may already exist. If none exists, investigate the many third-party telematic options available in the marketplace. Number 2, he says, get integrated. Explore building interfaces to send fault codes from high priority systems like propulsion brakes, elevators, SCADA, etc., to your enterprise asset management system to alert maintenance and generate work orders. Number 3, Brett says, don't be afraid of the data. Over time, the largest gains are realized through a comprehensive Internet of Things approach involving analyzing patterns in the data. This is typically achieved by integrating your critical streams of health monitoring data into a single system, such as commercially available business intelligence or predictive analytics tool. Number 4, evolve your maintenance regime. For transit maintenance divisions, the Internet of Things is seen as a catalyst to involve the industry from standard fixed time mileage maintenance to the newer condition-based and predictive paradigms. With a deeper understanding of your infrastructure, health patterns, ask yourself, are there ways we can optimize our maintenance program? Real-world examples include switching certain inspections from a fixed interval to condition-based and refining the frequency of selected services, such as increase the interval for component rebuilds. He says a significant reduction in service delays due to equipment failure is within your reach if you listen more closely to what your infrastructure is telling you. Asset health monitoring technologies are something your maintenance division should be investigating now. For many agencies, a fully integrated industrial revolution, the industrial Internet of Things, that system may feel like a lofty goal, so start by focusing first on your most safety critical systems. That is from the book, The Future of Public Transportation by Brett Koenig. If you want to talk to Brett, you can reach him on LinkedIn. That's where I reach him a lot of times. He is B-R-E-T-T, first name Brett, last name K-O-E-N-I-G, K-O-E-N-I-G, Brett Koenig, who is Industry Solutions Manager for Enterprise Asset Management, who can maybe help you as you look at taking this downtime with your system when a lot of your vehicles and your maintenance systems are not as busy due to the fact that you're maybe running only 50% of the service. You could use this as an important, wise usage of your time to get ready for bringing back up your systems by making sure that you are fully updated and using the internet, the industrial Internet of Things, and making sure you're using all the new asset management software technologies that are available as you move forward into a post-COVID world. I'm Paul Comfort. Thanks for being with us today on this midweek edition of Transit Unplugged, Comfort's Corner. Stay safe out there.